name is Mike Gravel. I'm former senator from the state of Alaska. I served from 1969 to 1981. I ran for president in the 2008 election cycle. My website is mikegravel.us. Well, U.S. politics is no different, basically, than the politics of any other representative government in the world. You have to appreciate that all what we call democracies in the world are all representative governments. They're not democracies in the true sense of the word. There's really only one that approximates what we call democracy, and that's, of course, Switzerland, where they have a partnership between their people who have the power to make laws in partnership with their elected officials. That's the only one. Now, we have other areas of the world where people not at the national level, but at the state and local level, where the people can make laws by initiative, but with very imperfect procedures, basically in 24 states in the United States, in Germany, in Uruguay, and that's about it, where people, and there's various other areas. Now, there's a normal confusion about people lawmaking. You hear it very often, initiative and referendum. Now, bear in mind that any legislative body can refer a legislative decision to the people, and that's called a referendum. Or in Europe, it's very much of a plebiscite. However, the people, when something is referred to them, all they can do is vote yes or no. They don't make the decision on the content of what is being referred to them. It's a little bit like a school bond issue, or, all you can do is vote yes or no. With respect to an initiative, the people can initiate the content of the legislative proposal and thereby present it to the balance of the constituency for an affirmative or negative vote. So it's a very important distinction to make between the initiative process and the referendum process. But it's very much of a confusion. People always think in terms of referendum when really what they probably are meaning to say is initiative process. And that confusion is perpetuated by, of course, the people in the government, because they want to keep the people basically ignorant about the potential power that the initiative process, that people have realized that if they had the initiative process, now they've got real serious power, because they could initiate legislation, which is a far cry from just waiting for the powers to be to place before the people a yes or no vote on legislation, which is rarely done. In fact, in the United States, we have never been offered the opportunity to vote on a constitutional change, and we've had 27 amendments to our Constitution. Not once have the people voted on a change in our Constitution. All I can say is I just throw my hands up in the air and say, there is an answer, but it's not going to come about because the powers that be in this country won't let the American people, and the American people have been drugged into accepting the authority of the elites. The answer lies with the people. The people are smarter than their leaders, and the people don't even know this. Most of the people don't accept this, but then when you go to a place like South Korea, that's the reason why I'm over there. Their Constitution, and I'll tell you this as a patriotic American, their Constitution is very much better than ours, very much better than ours. Remember I was telling you a moment ago that we have never voted on an amendment to our Constitution? They've had 8 amendments to their Constitution, and people have voted on all of them. You cannot amend a South Korean Constitution without the people making the amendment. You can't. Isn't that an interesting situation? A South Korean citizen is registered for life to vote. In the United States, you're not registered for life. Move across the street from one district to the other, and you got to re-register again. Most people don't appreciate that our process is designed categorically to make it difficult for you to participate in government. Yet every politician says, "Oh, we want you to participate." It's a joke. That's not the way it's designed. When I run for office, I want my people to turn out. I don't want my opponent's people to turn out. So when I have power, you sabotage the opponent's process. This is the competition between the parties. And it's representative government. The answers will not be found within the context of representative government. They can only be found within the context of the people. There's only two venues for change: the government, wherein the problem lies, and the people. I've got several books out there. The one that's a polemic is called Citizen Power, and that's self-published. You can get it on Amazon, or you can write me at Mike Gravel, mg at mikegravel.us, and I'll be happy to send you a book, $15, $17, $20, whatever, and I'll inscribe it for you. And it's a polemic that deals with issues that I care about. But Chapter 2 deals with the National Initiative for Democracy, which is really the most important thing that I think I'm putting forth. And Chapter 12, which is titled Who Stole the American Dream? And that's new scholarship where I develop what happened really in Philadelphia in 1787, where our framers, not the founders, the framers of the Constitution, wrote a Constitution that was designed to recreate the government at the time, the Confederation, which was failing. It was falling apart. And the people that would be most damaged by that, of course, were the elites and the property owners. So they wrote a Constitution that essentially was an attempt to protect the interest of the elites, and the main interest of a good portion of those elites was slavery. And so they had to devise a methodology of getting it ratified, not by the people, because they knew that the people would not buy into slavery, because they saw what happened in 1778 when the people of Massachusetts refused to ratify the Constitution of Massachusetts that included slavery. And then the people did ratify in 1780 the Constitution of Massachusetts, which took out slavery. So they knew that if they left, which they did, they had slavery locked in to the Constitution. So they well knew that if they let the people ratify directly the Constitution, that the people would not accept our Constitution as it was designed by them, because the people would not accept slavery even in the Deep South. Keep in mind that slavery was for the minority, the planters of the Deep South, not the ordinary people in the South who actually were in competition to the slave economy. So what they did is, and this is Madison's artifice, he developed this idea of having the conventions of 9 states. When they approved this is Article 7, which is two lines that said, when the conventions of 9 states ratify this, it will become the law of those 9 states. Well, who's going to these conventions? The people that were at the convention in Philadelphia, and the elites of these various states who are controlling the polity of those states are going to go to those conventions. So basically the ordinary people were not involved at all in the ratification process. And so those 9 states ratified. What's the interesting phenomena is that this was an illegal process at the time, because the Confederation Constitution said that you could only have changes if they were unanimously agreed to. But since they all recognized that the government was falling apart, the opposition just melted away and accepted this Article 9 ratification procedure. And so what happened was it became a self-actuating process where, because it was ratified, it made it legal. A very interesting legal procedure was put in motion, which I am now using as I am going forward in trying to get the ratification of the National Initiative for Democracy in the United States, and using the same procedure, the same precedent for doing the same thing in South Korea. If truth be told, I don't wear political party partisanship very well. When I was in the Senate, I was a maverick. The Democrats didn't like me any more than Republicans liked me. I left the Democratic, well, let's say, I think the Democrats pushed me out they didn't want me in the debates. And so it really was General Electric that really pushed me out of the debate in late September of '07, 5 months before the first primary. And that was a Democratic Party sanctioned debate. So literally, the leadership of the Democratic Party had to buy into their decision. Now, people say, well, this was an MSNBC debate. Now, how dare you attack General Electric? Well, it was an interesting thing that occurred. A friend of mine who was in New Delhi, India, wrote an email to General Electric saying, how dare you cut Senator Gravel out of the debate? He'd won a couple debates, and which most people didn't realize, and I was getting some traction. And so, and a lot of people are saying, well, this guy's interesting. He's telling the truth. And I was destabilizing the system of elites in our society. And so the PR person for General Electric, who should have sent the email to MSNBC to answer, no, he made a mistake. He sent an email back to New Delhi telling the guy, well, Senator Gravel does not meet our criteria. Now, isn't it interesting that I did not meet the criteria of General Electric, one of the nation's largest contractors, military industrial contractors? I did not meet their criteria. And so, of course, the other networks wanted to get me out of the picture anyway. So they did. From thenceforward, I was no longer part of mainstream media. I was made a non-person. Now, what's an interesting phenomenon now is that the other candidates, all the other Democratic candidates, it's a little bit like the Politburo under Stalin. This Politburo member disappears, and at the next membership of the Politburo, Stalin's there, and nobody makes mention of the fact that this guy's gone. Well, nobody makes mention of the fact that Mike Gravel is no longer in the debates, like he didn't exist. This is a very interesting process. I jumped all over Kucinich. I jumped all over Biden. I said, you're going to be next, and you're going to be next. And of course, they all dwindled down. But it says something about these people's attitudes toward democracy. What were they afraid of? I was obviously challenging very aggressively what was going on in these debates. I was saying, why do we have to have a war on drugs? It makes no sense at all. There's no evidence that this is working. Prohibition didn't work for alcohol. It's not working for drugs. And yet we continue to spend billions and billions of dollars. At the Howard University debate, which is the one that I won, and I won it, how did I know? Because they took a poll at Howard University, and I won it. I was trying to give some cover for Obama and others so that they would feel a little free to take some positions. What did Obama do the first thing he's president? He appoints a drug czar. So we continue this unbelievable tragedy that's going on in the inner cities. Who's damaged most by the drug war? It's the blacks in the inner city who we load up our prisons. I could go on from there. But this is the tragedy of what went on in these debates. It was the same old, and one of the things I kept saying in the course of these debates, follow the money, and you'll see the government you're going to get. And that's the government we're getting, is what paid for the election process. I'm delighted. I was ecstatic when Barack Obama became president. Like anybody else, I was just proud that he became president. I was very happy when Nancy Pelosi became speaker. But she's no different than any other speaker we've had. She's part of the military-industrial complex. Barack Obama is part of the military-industrial complex, part of American imperialism, part of American triumphalism. This is very sad, but he's very bright, and I'll point out to you that Barack Obama may go down in American history for his accomplishment of becoming president, not being president, because he hasn't really demonstrated to me that he's done anything unusual as being president. And if he keeps on, he's not going to do anything unusual in being president. It's going to be the same old, only more gracefully packaged, more velvety, more pleasingly packaged. That's not change. And fundamental change is not on the horizon within the context of representative government. And so when you want to begin to see and assess how it will come about, first off, you must understand that the powers that be, the money that bought the campaign, the money, the elites that control the government, not only control the executive, they control the Congress. Barack Obama doesn't understand. His problems aren't abroad. His problems are in the Congress. So those who control the executive also control the Congress. And if they don't like what he's doing, they'll play the Congress off against him and vice versa. And so Jack Kennedy had a great statement. When people came up with a good idea, they'd say, well, my God, he would say, this is a great idea. I wish we could get the government to do it. The government is very unwieldy.